Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and it is Sunday once again, which means it is time for the Texas Gun Vault question of the week. I believe this is number 9. This is a series where a week in advance I always put up on my community tab some type of question regarding guns, firearms, news, politics, cultures, or maybe just collecting in general. And you guys get to vote, thumbs up on each other's comments. I read the top rated comments and talk about the results of the poll. This week's question, I'm going to take a little blame on. I was not as specific as I should have been in the question. I asked, what type of gun owner are you? And YouTube only allows me to put 5 options in the polls. I can't put 6 or 7. So sometimes when there's a lot of options that I want to talk about, I can't put in all of the above option. And that was kind of the main comment. The question this week dealt with, as I mentioned, what type of gun owner are you, or what brought you into the Second Amendment community? Now, for myself, I find that I own guns, of course, for protection. I own guns for collecting, and I enjoy shooting. So 3 of these options are what I could select. However, out of all 3 of them, I would mainly say that I'm a collector first and foremost. That's kind of where my passion is in the firearms community. So while I do own guns for protection, I think that is extremely important. It's not necessarily my main focus, and I should have put and clarified that. About the middle of the week when I was looking at some of the answers, I realized I should have been clear. I almost deleted the poll and restarted it, but I already had at that time like 500 votes. So I decided to forego that and just make the video and kind of explain where a lot of people who were complaining, there should have been an all of the above. That's not necessarily what the poll was about. Just I was trying to figure out, what is your main focus? Of course, I doubt many people are going to fall into just one of these categories. So with that said and out of the way, let's actually read the question and take a look at the results. So the question this week said, the Second Amendment community is a diverse culture made up of people from all backgrounds and political philosophies. One thing that unites us is our love, appreciation, and respect for firearms and the constitutional right that protects them. Many people come to this lifestyle for different reasons. I personally am a collector, but I know others are practical and target shooters while others are hunters. What type of gun owner are you, and what draws you to support the Second Amendment? So as I mentioned, I tried to clarify in there, and sometimes when you write something, you think you're clear in its meaning, and maybe I wasn't. What is your primary focus in the Second Amendment? Well, let's take a look at what the results were. And with 842 votes as of filming this video, personal protection, defending one's life, family, and property, overwhelmingly 75%. Collector, like Pokemon, you've got to collect them all, 13%. Hunter, nothing is better than an over-under and a duck blind, 1%. Target and competitive, don't hate the playa, hate the game, 5%. And prepper, Alex Jones, told me the zombies were coming. Well, I gotta say, this was the most overwhelming, lopsided response I have gotten on any of my poll questions of the week. It doesn't really surprise me. I was expecting it to be personal protection because I think that most people aren't into this as much as I am, and maybe some of my subscribers. I take gun owning and gun collecting very seriously. It's really my main hobby outside of my career, which is professional music. I'm very focused and driven in the things that I like to do. So whenever I get involved in something, I master it. I want to know everything there is to know about that particular topic. One thing I don't want to be is a jack of all trades. What do they say? A jack of all trades and a master of none. That's just not my personality. I know a lot of people that like to have their hands and dabble in many, many things. And that is great, especially if it intellectually satisfies them. But for me, I have to know everything there is to know about a topic that I'm passionate about. And for things that I'm not really passionate about, I'll learn about them, I guess, and maybe I might kind of very casually dabble in them, but they just don't interest me. I'm not going to invest time and money in those pursuits. So for me, gun owning, of course, is for personal protection, and as I've mentioned in the past, for the concept of displaying my political philosophy of freedom and liberty. But as I've acquired more and more guns, I get into collecting. I want to collect every aspect of a particular gun or historical piece. You know, for example, when it came to the XM17 trials program, I wanted to own every gun that was a submission to that program. That's just the way that I am. And it's cool if some people like to get the new hotness, whatever gun is out right now, and then once something new comes out, they get rid of that and they buy the newest thing. They only like to have a rotation of maybe 2 or 3 guns. They're not really a collector, they're just into guns. That's just fine. We're all in this for different reasons. And as I mentioned, that's what binds us together. We have one common thing, a love of firearms, and we can all approach it differently and all get a lot of satisfaction, joy, and happiness out of this hobby. So let's talk about each one of these. Personal protection, defending one's life, family, and property. And as I said, that is where I think a majority of gun owners, especially new gun owners, are coming into the equation. They see all of the unrest that's happening in the world. They see how it is important to be able to defend yourself. The police, what is the saying? The police are minutes away when seconds count. Or when seconds count, the police are only minutes away. So we understand that we have to take personal responsibility to defend our homes, defend our families. And I think by extension, a lot of patriotic Americans believe to defend the nation. So that is really important. And I'm really happy to see that that got the most votes. Totally get it, and I respect that a lot. Next up, collector. Like Pokemon, you've got to collect them all. And as I mentioned, this is kind of where I'm at. I know that once you start getting into guns, and if you're one of those people that it's just an intellectual pursuit, you like to know everything about the mechanics, how a gun is built, all the different locking mechanisms, the history. You don't even have to be into, tactical firearms like I am. You could be into Lee Enfield rifles or bolt action rifles of World War II or whatever. You can be into a very specific category, or maybe even like old Smith & Wesson revolvers before 1970. It doesn't matter. But whatever aspect of the firearms collecting community you're in, you're still a collector. You just like to hold them, you like to learn about them, you look at them as pieces of history, you realize their importance and maybe the evolution of firearms, and so it's an intellectual pursuit, as I mentioned. And that's kind of the category that I fall into. Of course, I use my guns for personal protection, but I like to collect. Next up, hunter. Nothing is better than an over-under and a duck blind. This is the one that actually kind of surprised me. I really thought there would be more hunters than just 1%. But one thing that's really interesting is how this disproves the whole myth. And you always hear the propaganda from the anti-gunners. No one needs an AR-15 to go hunting. Well, most people don't go hunting. Well, I'm not a hunter. I've never actually killed anything with a firearm. I could not bring myself to kill a deer. Maybe I could kill a hog if I have to. And of course, in self-defense, if I was in the wilderness and a coyote came and it was just going to attack me, I think I could take out a coyote. But for the most part, I don't seek to kill anything. That's just not in my nature. But I could see if I needed to put food on the table, I could do that. But it just goes to show that most gun owners are not in it for hunting. So whenever the anti-gunners try to appeal to people from the hunting perspective, well, my granddad only needs an over-under shotgun when he goes to the duck blind. We're not trying to take your hunting rifle. Well, most people don't care about that and they don't buy into it. And this is where many of the anti-gunners miss the mark. I guess that's kind of pun intended. Where they're trying to appeal to people that they think are just hunters. And I think I have a pretty diversified viewership on my channel, and with only 1% saying their primary focus is hunting, they're missing the mark there. But if you're primarily a hunter, I think it's awesome. I'm just glad you're part of the Second Amendment community and you're willing to fight for all of us that might have different interests. Next up, target competitive. Don't hate the playa, hate the game. This is the type of, I don't want to say the type of gun owner that annoys me, because I don't think any gun owner annoys me, but the people that are all about the competitive shooting. Sometimes I think they get a little bit intense because they're going to go out there and their entire life is to go to the range and figure out how to shave off 1/100th of a second on a reload. Or they will throw everyone else under the bus because I don't care, as long as I can go out and do my 2-gun matches, my 3-gun matches, I don't care. That's all, you guys are stupid for collecting. Guns are meant for shooting. You don't need it for personal protection, but as long as I can go out and run and gun, I'm good. These are the people that, as I said, they're a little bit on the annoying side for me. But if you're one of those people, please don't take offense to it. But I understand that's the primary focus of some people. I look at target shooting and practical shooting as an extension of all of the other disciplines. Of course, I think if you're going to get into guns, this is going to be somewhere on your list. I mean, obviously you own the guns to shoot them, but for me, it's never really been the primary focus. But I respect anybody that does it. And I also don't like to look personally at people, especially celebrities, that are competitive shooters as role models in the Second Amendment. It's really easy. I could list a couple people that are known to be excellent marksmen, and they're great showmen, you know, these exhibition shooters that can do these amazing shots, that people look to them as ambassadors of the Second Amendment. Because a lot of times, I'm not trying to say this, well, I guess I can say this because I'm a professional musician. I see this a lot, but whenever you're a performer, there's always a certain level of ego that comes into play. And I guess I've found that many times competitive shooters and exhibition shooters will have an ego. Not that it's undeserving, because they can shoot way better than I will ever shoot. And they can do things that most people cannot do. I'm always impressed by how they've honed their skills. Sometimes their attitudes come off as a little bit arrogant, as though they are far superior in the firearms community than everyone else because their marksmanship is so high. So that's just my personal opinion and my personal run-in with people that are just target and practical shooters and don't really care about the other disciplines. As I said, I think every gun owner should be getting to the range and shooting the guns that they love. So this is by extension what we should be all involved in. But when it's the primary of focus, I think sometimes people lose track of the other disciplines. And the last one, prepper. Alex Jones told me the zombies are coming. This one was kind of the fun one, because I would assume that most people here are buying guns because they're, you know, personal protection and collecting and all that kind of stuff. But there are people I do know that go out and buy a lot of ammunition and buy a lot of guns that they have no plans on shooting, and they just want to store them because they think the world is coming to an end, or civil unrest, or financial collapse. The problem I have with these people, and I warn people against, is if you're going to go out and just buy a bunch of ammunition or buy a bunch of guns, don't buy a bunch of guns, go out and buy a few quality guns. The reason is I've known people that literally have 20, 30 firearms, but they're all cheap ones. And not saying that cheap guns are bad, because you can have entry-level guns. You know, you could name it Canics, which I think are fantastic firearms, but they'll go out and buy a bunch of low-level AR-15s, you know, very entry-level, non-chrome lined, and they see it on a deal like, wow, I got this AR-15 for $350. Well, good, it's gonna work fine. But maybe instead of buying 5 of those rifles, maybe you should have bought 2 Colts, bought maybe 1 Daniel Defense. I think that's gonna go a longer way than buying a bunch of cheaper guns. That's just my personal opinion, but I do know a bunch of people that just buy and stock up on ammo. They never go shoot, and every deal that they get, regardless of price, they're like, well, 5.56 is usually right now $1 a round. I've got it for 95 cents a round. I went and bought 1,000 rounds. And they send me pictures of it. It's like, well, great, you just way overspent for ammo and you're not shooting. I don't know. I'm all about getting the ammo you need to go to the range and have fun and be prepared. But some people, I think, take it a little bit too far. But I say, if you're a prepper, keep doing what you're doing. I don't blame you. You have the right philosophy, and probably when everything goes south, a lot of the people are going to wish they were you. But my suggestion for all of those people is go out and instead of buying many cheap guns, buy fewer high-quality guns, and I think you'll get a lot more mileage out of those. So let's go to the top-rated comments of the week. And way in first place, James Feasel, or Fezzle, hope I'm pronouncing that right, says, should have had an all-of-the-above option. Well, as I mentioned, YouTube only gives me so many options, and I know that pretty much everybody is going to be in all of these disciplines to some extent, but I just wanted to see what your main focus was. All right, next up is Gurr. Says, got into firearms for personal protection and just for the sake of being able to exercise the right, but it quickly turned me into a prepper, target shooter, and now a collector. So someone else that has a broad range of interests here in the firearms community, and I think that's how everyone gets in. One of these things gets you in the door, and then once you get in the door, you just go to all the other things. So it's interesting. personal protection was their main focus. That's what they wanted. And also being a prepper, and instead just going into everything else. Will Zim says, personal protection, especially now that I have kids. I heard someone say once before, when sounds count, the police are minutes away. Oh, sorry, seconds count. See, there I go. I messed up on that saying again. When seconds count, police are minutes away. Completely changed my outlook on the importance of self-preservation. Yeah, so there you go. Another personal protection. And I think the primary reason most people get into it, and for myself, I was always single until I was 39 years old. Now I'm married, and married into an amazing family, have some amazing kids. They're my stepsons, but I look at them as my personal, my own sons biologically. I love them with all my heart, and I would do anything to protect my wife and my family. So I totally understand how that mindset can change over time. Next up, we have Simon Wessler, who says, Target. Although I'm not going to competitions, I just love shooting them on the range. You know, and I find that too, that when it comes to people that are more target shooters, that are viewers and subscribers of mine that have commented, a lot of times they're from other countries where the concept of personal protection with firearms is sometimes illegal. Like I have a couple of viewers from Australia. You're not allowed to defend yourself with a firearm there. You're allowed to own them, but you can't use them to defend yourself. I find that to be absolutely ridiculous. But so they cannot put personal protection. They would obviously be in it for target shooting because that's where their license is and where their permission to exercise that right. I guess it's not a right if you need to ask permission. Well, the exercise gun ownership comes from. And finally, we have Robert Knight, who says, I realized I'm a collector even though I will always protect my family and property, and even though I was a Boy Scout, always be prepared. I have 3 Glock 19s, all a little different, and others like this too, so it ultimately makes me a collector even though I'm a little of all. So, and I completely get that one as well. I feel the same way. I'm a collector first and foremost, but personal protection right up there with everything else. And then you go, of course I go to the range all the time. I love shooting awesome guns. It's just the way it is. Maybe one day I'll go hunting. I got some people that want to take me and my wife to go hog hunting. I might take them up on that offer one day. And of course, prepping. If anything that has shown us with all the civil unrest going on, you gotta be prepared. You know, this year we had the great toilet paper run. You know, everyone was out of toilet paper. And then we had the great ice storm here in Texas that knocked all our power out for almost a week. So we need to be prepared with flashlights and generators and food. It really changes your mindset when you go through a situation like that. So prepping is always important. So there you go. So that is the Texas Gun Vault question of the week and my thoughts on your comments and my thoughts on the poll in general. I almost never comment or respond to these because I do not want to influence the results or the top rated comments. And I always tell you guys how I would have voted, which in this case I mentioned would be a collector. So if you are watching this video, the new poll should be out. It releases at the same time. Go check it out. It's on my community tab. I will put a link in the description below to my community tab and the poll itself. Please feel free to go over there and vote. Let me know what you think on the topic of the day, and please comment and then like other people's comments so we get the top rated comment of the week. So there you go. I really appreciate everybody that participates in these polls. It's really fun to kind of hear your thoughts, read your comments. I do read every comment in these. As I said, I just don't reply because I don't want to influence the results. But I do read every comment, and I appreciate your support of my channel and your participation in these things. So there you go. So let me know if you have any questions, and I hope you still enjoy this segment that I put on every Sunday regarding something about the firearms industry and polling you guys. So let me know if you have any questions. And as always, thanks for watching.